Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope.
Okay, so we are here for episode number 10.
Number 10.
Yep. And we also want to remind everyone out there in the Glum Lot community, we do have an email address. Feel free to email us at theglumlotpodcast@gmail.com. And we also have a Facebook page, and you can join our group, and that is the Glum Lot Podcast on Facebook. Please join. You'll get the latest episodes and make comments about me and Brett being dorks.
But remember,
So, yes.
Be nice because of the thin skin that I have.
And also, always remember to be kind, rewind.
Yes. That's a
So,
blockbuster.
yeah.
That was a good one.
And indeed, what's on your mind today, sir? Oh, boy. When you clear it like that with a sigh,
Yeah.
I know it's going to be heavy.
It's a little glum.
Oh, well, we are not a glum lot.
True.
I
But
know
sometimes.
Sometimes I can be a glum snot. I know that.
yeah.
Unfortunately.
So there is one of those AA acronyms. It's FEAR. And that stands for false evidence appearing real.
I've also heard forget everything and run.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, but false evidence appearing real, boy, that is 100% accurate. You know, there's a healthy fear. This is, oddly enough, I discovered today for the first time, and I never knew this, that Stephen King is sober.
What?
Yep. Stephen King's one of us. And I remember him when someone was interviewing him about writing scary books.
Yeah.
And he said, fear in my books is not really what I consider fear. He said, fear to me is, and this was the funny thing, he said, fear to me is like you're about to be hit by a truck and you jump out of the way because you have fear. And so the funny thing was he was hit by a vehicle.
Whoa.
In real life.
That's heavy.
Remember that? And it took him out
No.
for a while.
No,
oh, yeah,
I don't.
it took him out for a while. But anyway,
So I want to ask our listeners a couple things. See if
Sure.
any of these fears resonate, right?
Okay.
Because we're afraid of everything. I was, especially, success, failure, life, bugs, heights, baldness. I'm getting there. Women, men, dogs. Maybe some dogs.
People named Doug.
They freak me right out, and usually they're bald
Hi,
too.
I'm Doug.
No
No!
offense.
right.
Cracks in the sidewalk, all those things.
Yeah.
All these things can just feel so real to us, but they aren't worth being afraid of.
No, and
Especially
you know what?
Doug.
One of my sayings in life for myself personally is always fear is the biggest liar in my life.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's telling me that I should be afraid of fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And my higher power didn't take me this far to drop me now.
Darn right.
So what I have to do is I have to change that fear into faith.
Work through it, yeah.
Yep. And it's faith in a higher power who, although every time takes me through okay, maybe not the way I thought it was going to go, but things work out, I still have a certain level of mistrust of the universe.
Of
and
course.
it's unfounded.
Because we can't control that universe.
That's
and we
right.
don't know what the universe has
and
in
a
plan
lack
for us.
of control is our dilemma,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But as long as we keep going, keep doing the next right thing, then we get our sobriety, our sanity, and serenity. Right.
So
that can be all ours if we can work through our
If you're in
fears.
recovery and you experience fear, it's normal. It just means that there's work to be done.
That's right.
Right? So with that, we have a fantastic guest.
And do not be afraid of them.
Yes. Do not be. It's not Doug. It's actually a female, and her name is not Doug.
I can't believe that we've been able to get so many females after all we've done.
I am so grateful. Their perspective is insightful.
Yeah, yeah.
And even, being a male, We don't have the answers to everything.
Nope.
I know that. So, anyways, our guest today is a fantastic person, and she's been around a long time. Please welcome Kate.
Kate.
Welcome, Kate, to the Glum Lot Podcast. We are glad you are with us.
Thank you.
All right. So can we start with your sobriety date?
So my original sobriety date was in August of 1982. And then I picked up a drink in between there. My actual sobriety date would be February of 1984.
Okay. So what we'd like to do here is kind of start at the beginning. So the first question I usually ask is, when was your first drink?
Oh, I thought it was a bottle of wine that I had taken from my neighbor's basement, homemade wine, and we drank the whole thing, me and another friend, and got drunk that day.
Nice.
And so that was my first drink, I'm pretty sure. But then I remembered that we went to a wedding up in Rochester, and my cousin had gotten married, and they had this beautiful fountain of whiskey sours.
A fountain of whiskey sour.
It was lovely.
It was alluring. It was attractive.
And no one was paying any attention, and so.
And how old were you at the time?
I think I was probably around 12.
Okay. Do you remember
bellied
coming
up
there.
to the fountain?
Do you
Yes,
remember
we did.
catching a buzz?
Oh yeah, we were all drunk coming home.
Do you remember how you felt about that?
What was the experience?
Oh, I hated drinking prior to drinking. I didn't like.
So you didn't like
Alcohol.
the idea of drinking?
Not at all. It had ruined a lot of my life already.
Oh, okay.
Without drinking. So
All right.
through other people, obviously, but
Yeah.
and I never really wanted to drink. Like, it wasn't a thing. Like, I thought, oh, geez, I should do that. But once I did that, I was like, well, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
So you
I think I get it now.
Did it feel like any sensation the first time you drank? Like,
Well,
did
yeah,
it feel
sure.
instant?
Of
Some
course
people
you
have
do.
said like relief.
No, I don't know about that, but I like that. I think the thing about drinking the most for me was that it alleviated the need to feel. I didn't have to feel what I was feeling, and I didn't have to think about what my life was at that point in time. So it kind of it took that stuff away.
Yeah, it was an easy way to check out.
Right.
Yeah, and it felt good.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Well, it took care of that.
Yeah. So how did your drinking progress from that point?
So high school, and then when I drank, I got drunk. I didn't really jump to any social drinking right away.
Yeah.
I just dove right into.
So you drank purely for effect.
Absolutely.
And so now, were you an everyday drinker?
Not then, obviously. I think my parents would have caught on, but but we had alcohol available to us. It was around. So, and I had friends that were older than me too, a little bit. So they, we would drink. So I drank whenever I could, but I started using some drugs on top of that, just smoking marijuana. Now that was every day. And that was when I got up till the time I went to bed.
Okay. And how old were you at this point?
15.
Okay. So you're in high school, you're drinking whenever it pops up, but you're definitely getting high as a way of life.
Poking some snot.
Absolutely.
Poking some snot.
Snot.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't know what that is.
And,
Smoking pot. Walking backwards like a fooped stool.
Okay, all right.
And so, at what point did it become a problem, or did you think it was a problem?
It was always a problem, but I didn't think it. I don't know that I thought it was a problem. I just, it became just a way of life. Once I started working and earning my own money, and I could buy my own stuff, whatever, and I got a little more independent on my own. That's when I did. That's when drinking became like a regular thing for
Self-supporting.
me.
So were you like a bar drinker?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, home and bar.
Okay, so you drove drunk,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And was there a time at which you thought to yourself, this is a problem? You know?
When I got arrested.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Detail.
it takes a little turn here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get pulled over for drunk driving, right? You get your DWI. You're young,
I was 21, I think.
21, and so you get popped. And what happens as a result of that?
Well, you have to go to those drunk driver courses, and I had left home when I was 17, so I lived on my own. I wasn't at home.
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten arrested and had to do these courses and go through the rigmarole that you always have to do. And
For court, yeah.
so that really was when I got sober or started to get sober, because the guy who was teaching that course at the end of it said, or close to the end of it, had admitted that he was an alcoholic.
Oh.
And I saw him and I looked at him and I thought, he was right around my age, and I thought, how can he be an alcoholic?
Right.
Was
you
weird.
don't look like an alcoholic.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't even, not even close. And I thought, he didn't look like an alcoholic at all. But, they said, don't drink before you come here. And of course I did. And I'd sit way in the back, so they wouldn't smell the booze. I just wanted to get my license back. I wasn't looking for anything.
Right. You weren't looking to get sober or to change anything except to get out of trouble.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this guy tells you he's an alcoholic.
Yeah, so he said, I'm an alcoholic, and he wasn't going to be there that next week. And that kind of clicked in my head, and I thought, well, I want to find out more about that. Why does he think he's an alcoholic?
Now,
what makes you an alcoholic?
Now, did you have a suspicion that you were drinking more than a normal person drinks?
Well, I already knew I drank more than a normal.
Okay, so
I didn't compare my drinking to anybody. I would start with one group, and I'd end in like 4 groups down the road.
Yeah.
They would go home and do what they were supposed to do, and I would just keep on going.
Doing
to the
what
next
you weren't
one.
supposed to do.
Well, mostly, yes.
So, but are you having some kind of an internal conversation at this time about like your drinking? Like maybe it's a problem, maybe it's.
I had I didn't know this was what it was at the time, but I was starting to have panic attacks, and I was doing different drugs at that point too. A little bit more harder drug. Just speed really more than anything. So I could drink more.
Yep.
I would take speed so I could drink and keep on going, and that was really the name of the game. So in the end, I was having panic attacks. I thought I was going to die, and at a
They
couple
are
times.
no joke.
But I didn't know what it was. So I thought, so I would lay down in my hallway and think, if you're going to take me now, God, just do it, all right?
That's what it feels
I'm ready
like.
to go. So I was probably in my early 20s, and I already was ready to just get out of here. So
it really brings you to a very lonely place.
It's
a
terrible.
very lonely, dark place.
It's dark.
Yeah.
It's dark, and you don't know where you are. It's just weird, and you got no flashlight.
You're lost.
No flashlight. Yeah.
And so this guy that you met talks about being an alcoholic, and then you start thinking, hey, I want to know more about this. So what happens?
So I had gone out to my vehicle that I still had. Now, my car had gone to jail the night I got arrested. I didn't.
The car
Your
did.
car went to jail, but you didn't.
What happened that night was I called somebody from downtown and said, you need to come get me. And he was at the bar, and he's like, I don't have a license. And I said, I don't care. You're coming down, and you're going to get me to the police station. I didn't think he didn't really want to do that much, but
Yeah.
he did.
Did he?
Oh, yeah, he did.
course.
Man.
Yeah, because I insisted. So
All right.
he came and got me, and I went out drinking. That's
Oh
what
my
I
God!
do.
So you got your DWI.
Yes.
Got down to
Nothing
the police
wrong with
station,
me, okay?
Got picked up and went back out drinking.
Yes.
Wow.
What else would you do?
I know. I completely
What other answers do
completely
you have?
understand. Yeah.
There is no other
Okay.
answer.
Do you have a problem? No. No, I'm back
Absolutely
out,
not.
dude.
As a matter of fact, I still need to drink a little more. I
Yeah.
was just
Not
getting
done yet.
started. I was
I'm not
warming
there
up.
yet.
It was an interruption. Interruption, not an
So
eruption.
at some
was
point
in
during
between
this
bars.
period of your life, does something change?
Well, that was that, and then I ended up, having to move. I lost my apartment, basically, because I was trying to get out of this trouble too, and I had to pay for it myself. I didn't ask my parents. I wasn't.
It's expensive.
Yeah, and it was at that point in time. I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was working a couple jobs, and so it was on me, basically, is the deal. And I think because of that, it kind of prompted me a little further down, to think about it a little bit
Right,
more.
you had some skin in the game, and so you felt some loss.
Absolutely.
The unmanageability was creeping in, and it's not good.
No, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I thought, all right. So I just kind of went through the motions, and I was just trying to get my back on track. And so I left that apartment, moved, and with the people that I had actually had my first drink with, a couple of the girls that I grew up with. So I moved in with them, right next door to my favorite bar. And I kind of figured that would help.
You could walk.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have to drive there. Everything's fine.
It's all good.
Now, but at
It was
this
on
time,
a bus line. I was fine.
At this time, did the thought ever cross your mind that maybe drinking is a problem? Or was it still a
nope.
driving
She moved
problem?
next to a
No.
bar. I don't
No,
think that.
it
So
really wasn't.
It's still
No.
just a bad luck problem.
Yeah, it just kind of was. And the funny part was my brother had gotten a DWI maybe like 2 months prior to me getting one. And I remember, just being hard on him about that. Like, I can't believe that you did that.
Right.
And what is wrong with you? And
Oh, boy.
Mom would be so disappointed in you.
It
Yeah.
wasn't that. But it was just, I'm like, what's wrong with you? And then I
Yeah,
ended up,
yeah.
and so
Whoops.
when I was in the back seat of the police car, oh boy.
Snort.
So, yeah, that was bad. It's funny because of what I do now for a living, but when I was I'm like, aren't you guys supposed to be at Dunkin' Donuts or something?
Oh, that's
And,
great.
Yeah.
Making friends.
Yeah. Let's stir up the shit.
Well,
Let's poke the
You
hornet's
know,
nest.
why are you sitting there? Because they clocked me going speeding, and that's kind of how they followed me because I didn't know they were behind me. I
Yeah.
was just cruising, so it took me a minute to pull over. Well, more than a minute, but and they weren't happy with me. But
No,
that's
no.
why I went to jail. But I didn't go to jail. Back then, they just give you an appearance ticket. We're back in that circle again now. We're giving appearance tickets again. But back then, you didn't go to jail. You just, if you could find somebody. So that's what I did. And in the end, I landed here in AA. But I met Paul in that class. And so I'm sitting outside of that room waiting for him to come out.
Of the drunk
so
driving.
this is
Of
the
the class.
The
So I'm
normie,
going to jump
straight-laced-
back to
yeah.
really why I ended up getting here. So I was waiting for him, and I must have gotten in my car 3 or 4 times and, went to turn the ignition, and something just told me, don't leave. Just, you got to find out.
It
You
was
got to know.
Paul.
Yeah, well, and so I was just like, you might not get another chance.
Okay.
That's what I
Wow.
thought.
All right.
So that's what I was getting. So
There's a
I
higher
waited.
power in there somewhere, right?
That was all the higher power.
Yeah.
Man, it wasn't me.
Nice.
So I waited for Paul to come, and he sat there and talked to me for like 2 hours,
Wow.
Drunk to drunk.
and just told me his story and explained, and he talked me into going to my first meeting. And that was
Did he take you to your first meeting?
I met him at my first meeting,
Nice.
which
Okay.
was Hit Monday Sober.
Okay.
It was a Sunday night, and it was a huge meeting. And the funny part was I got there before Paul did. And I got to the back door, and you had to go down these stairs, but there was this young girl standing in the doorway there. She was like 16 or something, and she said, "Oh, are you new?" And I'm thinking, how does she fucking know?
Yeah, I know, but you know what?
I've
We-
never
we
been
can
here
tell.
before, right?
We
And I-
can tell.
well, it was funny. Yeah, she knew. But she was like, wow. Like, she's like, you are going to love AA. And I'm thinking, I hate AA already.
Already. Yeah.
Having
Sorry.
to descend
This
the
is not working.
staircase.
I'm like, but now I'm stuck there. I got to go down the stairs and into the meeting. So I did. And, and my hand was shaking. Somebody got me a coffee, and It was a big meeting. There was probably like 60
Did you raise your hand and
people.
say, "This is my first"?
Yeah, I said, yeah, I did. And Paul did show up. He came in after the fact, but so I didn't talk to him before the meeting started. I just, when they asked if anybody had ever been here, I, raised my hand. So I knew at my first meeting, and after my first meeting, after people have shared their experience, strength, and hope with me, that I belonged there. I just didn't know if I wanted to be there.
Okay, so you hear some of your story. You think these people are like me, but I just don't know if I'm ready to stop drinking.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a big ask.
Well,
it's a way of life.
They want you to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and I thought,
you're like, wait a minute,
way too busy.
I have things to do. I don't know. Really? You go every day? No, but they did. He circled meetings for me every day in the schedule because back in 1982, the schedule was paper.
Yeah.
There was no internet. There was no cell phones. There was none of that. So, yeah. So I didn't go right back to a meeting because I was having a surgery. So I went to that one. I might have gone to one or two more, and then I had to have the surgery. So that put me out again for a while. And what I did was, I remember just hearing what people were saying about being an alcoholic and what that meant. Like an alcoholic can't control his drinking, and an alcoholic, just all the things that come with active drinking. And I thought, well, I decided I would try that first. Try to control it, try to maybe see. And there was no control.
Now that I know these things,
right,
I can use this information and I can maybe drink safely.
Well, they only said all you have to do is stop drinking.
Well, yeah, there. Okay.
I'm not doing that, but
wasn't really 100% on not drinking at all. And I was, still smoking pot. I had stopped taking the speed because I was having that surgery and I didn't want it to show up on a blood test, so I stopped doing that.
So you get out of the surgery, what happens?
So I would call, actually, when I was in the hospital, because I had to be there like 10 days, and Paul came up with a couple women from AA.
And visited you.
And visited me. And I thought, wow.
That must have had an impact. Oof.
Yeah. I think, it definitely did, because I thought, these people don't know me. They don't know me at all. Why are they here? What are they doing?
Right. It's so weird to us at the time. You're like, what's the catch?
Right. What are you looking for?
What am I not seeing?
I don't have no money, so.
Who's the guy that says we're going to get on a spaceship? Where's he coming around,
I don't know. It touched my heart, though. It really did. I thought, wow.
Yeah, once you
they
realize
took time out of their day
that there's no ulterior motive.
Right.
It's like, holy shit. I've never experienced this before in my life.
No.
It's part of the attraction, I think.
No. And it was.
Yeah.
And part of, I had ulterior motives. So, I was hoping Paul would ask me out on a date.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
He
was cute. Okay. I thought, all right, well, I haven't had much luck out there, so maybe I'll try this.
You know what? Whatever it takes to get sober, man.
Well, that's how I got there. Now, Paul never dated me. Let's be clear. He didn't do that. And that's the right thing to do.
Right.
He wanted me to get sober.
That's it.
And so my grandfather had passed. So I didn't go back to meetings right away. I was just kind of self-medicating, drinking and smoking pot.
Yep.
And I want to say at some point I tried to control my drinking one night, and I went out and I thought, all right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to see. And a lot of the things that I had heard in that meeting about alcoholism or, drinking, and I realized that they were right. Like, I couldn't control it.
So you were going to put it to the test.
Well, like the big book says,
did.
Go, if you don't think you are, go ahead and try it.
Yeah,
go
belly
out and
up
try.
to the
Go
bar.
have just one.
Exactly.
And see what happens.
And so you couldn't.
No.
And
no.
Did you make a decision at that point?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What was that decision?
I thought, you know what? I'm just going to try this. I'm going to try it.
Wow.
They're right. I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know what sober is. I have no clue. Because the truth is, like, I think long before you pick up a drink, you're drunk, and so I don't think I had a sober thought. Like in kindergarten, I was singing Tiny Bubbles, right? That was like my favorite song. Nothing wrong with me. And, that was my focus. And I hadn't even picked up a drink, but I needed one in kindergarten, okay?
Yeah. in like a bottle with like a rubber end.
Yeah, the anxiety and just the change and all the things that come along with, progressing in life. And I just didn't want to do it.
So you come to this realization. What was your next move?
So I called Paul and I said, you know what, I'm going to try it. So he said, okay, I'll meet you, go to this meeting or whatever. And so I started going to meetings. I just started going. And I was going for like a month. Now, the girls that I lived with, like I said, they were like my best drinking buddies. And when so the first 3 months I lived there, we would go out drinking. They would go home. I would
do the things you're supposed to.
And then they would try to get me up the next day to go to work, and I didn't want to, obviously, because I came home much later than they did. And but I would eventually, and that really, they got pissed off about that. But then I stopped drinking, and they said I had been like about a month not drinking.
Okay.
And I was going to meetings every day, and I would go to the meeting. Now, I wasn't friends with anybody in AA. I would go there. I would walk in, I'd sit down. I didn't really talk to too many people. I didn't really want to get
close.
Well, I didn't want to commit.
You're still kicking the tires.
Right. But I thought, I'm going to try it. So I did meet one guy. I had an LTD Ford convertible. That's the car I got the DWI in. And one of the guys, he was a younger guy too. He was sober maybe 3 years. And so he was like, hey, where'd you get that? Is this your car? And I go, yeah, you think I didn't steal it. It's mine. Yeah. Why? And he's like, well, you want to go have coffee? I go, no.
I do not.
No.
But it was, he went, actually, so it was my friend's birthday, the girls I lived with. It was their birthday. That was in November. So I had gone back to meetings probably like the end of September, early October. No, it was after my birthday, so October-ish. And so I had not been drinking for like about a month. It was their birthday. I was supposed to meet them out in the bar after I went to the meeting. I said, I need to go to a meeting first.
And then I'll come out and drink.
And then I'll meet you out, right? So Vinny kept asking me, you sure you want to go out for coffee with? I go, no, I don't. I go, I got something to do. I didn't want to tell him what I was doing because I knew it wasn't right. Well, Paul had nothing to do with it. So Vinny asked me, and I'm like, no. And I said, all right. So I finally kind of just broke down and said, listen, I'm meeting my friends at Copperfield's. You don't want to do that. He's like, because he was like, well, I'll go with you. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, leave me alone, man.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing. He's like, okay, I'll see you there. And I'm like, what
He showed up?
Buzzkill.
Yeah, he went. And now here's the thing. That day, I'm glad he went because if he hadn't gone, I would have drank because I could feel that.
It was coming.
They were standing at the bar drinking, and I'm watching everybody drink, and the sweat was pouring down my face, and I was just dying.
Yeah.
I wanted to drink. And
it's the hell of drinking, the hell of not drinking.
That's exactly where I was.
Yep.
And I was like, wow. And if this guy hadn't gone...
Right, you would have not had that experience of watching him and not liking where you were and feeling uncomfortable.
It was more like... I would have just drank. I know I would have drank.
Yeah.
I thought I had the willpower not to drink. I thought it had something to do with willpower. I thought it had something to do with me. It had nothing to do with me. It wasn't me. So I would not have stopped myself from drinking that day, but because he was there,
right.
It stopped. It made me think about it.
Did something change from that point on for you?
Yeah. It did because, well, so what happened maybe like a few days later was my grandfather passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I was close with my grandfather. So I had a dream prior to his passing. He was in the hospital. And so in the dream, and I'll just make it short, I knew he was there in front of me, and I was in this completely white room, and there was a chair, like a big overstuffed easy chair, but with a tall back on it. And so I was trying to keep death away because it was an arm it was completely charred black, and I was throwing it against the wall, and I was trying to get rid of it in this dream. And my grandfather was there, and he was wrapped all in white, and he said, just let it be. And I'm like, no, I can't. We can't do that. And he said, yes, it's okay. So I sat down in the chair, and he sat on my lap, and he left. He passed away in my arms in the dream.
Mm.
So that morning, when I woke up, I was sobbing, I was crying, I was like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And then I went back to sleep because I couldn't go running up to the hospital at 3 a.m. or whatever time it was. And I was like, so I waited. And then the phone rang, and my grandmother called me, and she said, Grandpa passed away last night. And I thought, and I knew it.
Jeez. That's
So
crazy.
it freaked me out, and I was like, holy shit. So I called Paul, and I'm like,
You're not going to believe it just happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, well, that's never happened to me, but I think I would go to a meeting. And I said, all right. So that's what I did. And I went to a meeting, and I kept going to meetings. So that Saturday night, I went to a meeting that I used to drive by when I was drinking, right? And I used to see all the cars there, and it was at a Catholic church. And I'm like, I know they don't have mass there on
What's
Saturday
going on?
nights at 8 o'clock.
Kind of a party's going on there.
Yeah, so I asked my roommate at the time, I'm like, what's going on up there? And he says, it's an AA meeting. And I go, what do they do there? And he's like, I don't know. And I go, do they teach each other how to drink? What do they do?
Right.
What do you mean? I didn't get it. I went to that meeting. And that, I went early that night. And I sat down at the table with a bunch of the old timers that were always in those meetings. Every meeting I went to, the same people were there.
Yeah, you go to the same area.
They were consistent, and they were all there, and they all went to the same places, and they all talked. And so, at any rate, I told them what happened, and they were very nice about it. And they were like, they didn't say, oh, you're nuts, or something's wrong with you, or, they were like, no, that's something special. That was more than just a dream, and that was a gift. That was a gift for you from God and your grandfather. And so that's when I decided that I was in AA. I wanted to get
You had
in
that
AA.
spiritual experience.
Yes,
Created some kind of a psychic change for you.
it did.
And you were ready to be all in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sponsor? Do you start working the steps? All that kind of stuff?
I got a sponsor. My first sponsor, she was a quieter. She wasn't really great for me. But so I would lie to her because my life at that point too was I still wanted to do what I wanted to do.
Sure.
I wanted to live my life, but I wanted to be in AA too,
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't have it both ways.
But it doesn't really work that way. And because of that, that's why I'm sure I drank again, because I, was doing it like that.
Right, you talked about your original sobriety date, and then you said you drank. How long of a period of time was that?
It was like 13 months.
Okay, and during that 13 months, you didn't drink,
I didn't drink.
but you were kind of struggling in the program.
I was still smoking some pot.
Okay.
And so here's the deal. Like I started going to coffee after meetings with these guys. I started going places with them. I started hanging out at their house, with them.
Right, so the fellowship is starting to get to you.
Because I didn't really believe that. I didn't believe that anybody could live without a buffer zone. They have to be doing something, okay? They're not bullshitting me. Just like a day at a time. You're not kidding. This is forever, okay? I know what this is. I'm not an idiot. But you could say a day at a time. But it is, obviously. But back then I thought, I wasn't much for commitments. I wasn't much on, I didn't want to jump all in because I don't know. Is it a cult? What is this place? I'm not. So I'm cautious.
Exploring. So you're exploring AA
Cautious,
for that amount of time.
Because I didn't believe it.
Still getting high, but
a
not
little
drinking.
bit. But I stopped, and so I went to somebody's house that one night. We were all sitting there, and we're all sitting around, and we're just talking, and we're having a great time, and we're laughing our asses off. And I thought, these bastards really don't do anything. They don't. They do nothing. They don't smoke pot. They don't take pills. They don't do anything except be sober. And I thought, if they can do it, I think I can do it. So that was the end of smoking pot, at least for that moment.
Good.
And that was probably 3 or 4 months in. My dad had a heart attack about 6 months in, which was difficult. And I smoked a little pot that day with my brother. And I hadn't smoked for a while. So when I smoked that day, I was like, I can't even put two sentences together. I walked around like that all day, every day for years.
Yeah.
And I thought I was fine.
But now you're seeing it as, this isn't good.
Right. It becomes very clear to me that
this is not working.
I lived in a fog for as long as I possibly could. And I didn't want to be in the fog anymore. I wanted to live in the clarity.
But,
I wanted
so going
that.
forward a couple months, at some point you do drink again.
I drank. That was just I think it was just I don't know. I don't even know what I want to say about that. Because I still needed to come to believe, come to believe that I really was an alcoholic, that I
Right.
really was that.
You're
and
really
the second
powerless.
that, now God didn't stop me from going to get the beer, like I thought he might, because I'm like, well, God, if you don't want me to drink right now,
Right.
you're going to stop me.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen. And I thought, okay, well, all right. So I go back to my
Must be
house,
okay.
and I crack open the beer, and I put it to my lips, and it went down, and I thought, and I felt it right from the top of my head, right down to my toes, and I knew. In that moment, I knew 100% without question, I'm an alcoholic. These bastards are right again. They're always goddamn right. I hate these people. I hate them. They're so right
Son
all
of
the
a bitch.
time. But they really were. And so that was in February of 1984. And that was my last drink.
Wow. That's when your sobriety began.
Yes.
It's very, every one of us is different, and it takes us, we go take different paths to get there. But if we're fortunate enough to get to that point that you got to, it's like a miracle.
It is.
And then you realize, you know what? I don't want to drink anymore. I want to be sober. I want to learn to live a better life. And then once you get into the steps, I want to work on my character defects. I want to forge these relationships with people that are sober. But like you say, that fog you were in never occurs to you that this is a problem until forces start to create pain in your life. And that pain is our motivator.
Yes.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, I don't give a shit.
They just keep on going.
Keep on going until it kills them.
And I hear people's stories. I hear other people's stories that have like 3, 4, 10 TWIs and all the shit that happens to them. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I wasn't any of that. I didn't have anything to lose, really. I didn't have that much to begin with. So, I didn't feel that loss as deeply as some people do. But at the same time, when I hear other people's story, I think, I am a wimp. I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have survived.
Right, so you consider, what? And I've always considered myself a high bottom drunk.
Right.
I never went to jail. I never got a DWI. Right. I never lost a job. I mean, I got to a super, super dark place in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As I watched my father dying of cirrhosis because he was an alcoholic.
Right.
And, by the grace of God, I got this gift that I got it finally. It made sense to me. And I see a lot of people come in that they know they got a drinking problem, but it doesn't make sense to them to come and get help. And, I see it on a weekly basis, really.
Yeah.
All the
And they go
time.
back out, and sometimes they come back, but most of the time they do not. And I don't know what happens to them, but...
Well, you stop believing. You just stop believing. I think that it's just that lack of faith or belief or just,
yeah. And,
they're telling you the truth. The truth hurts. The truth is hard.
yeah.
It's not the easy path. It's the hard path to walk down and say, this is my truth. This is
Right.
who
We thought there was
who
an
I
easier,
am.
softer way, but there was not.
Well, not really.
Yeah. And then, what happened with you? You stood at the turning point.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And,
So I called my sponsor. Now, I had gotten a different sponsor by now. So Francis was an older gentleman. He was in his 70s, and he lived right down the street from me, and he had trouble driving at night. So I had met him that Saturday night. I had seen him before, obviously. He was at my first meeting, too. But so he said, "Do you drive?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Well, can you come? You can drive my car and pick me up, and we'll go to meetings. And we'll pick. And along the way, we picked up other people, and we
the
would
sobriety
go to
bus.
meetings.
Yeah.
Kind of. And so Francis was truly my first sponsor, and he got me to Marion, who was my real sponsor, and she didn't want to be my sponsor because she knew how hard-headed, stubborn, and I was belligerent. I was stubborn. I'd argue. I would, fight back, just because I don't know. It's my nature, I
right.
guess.
So you are. Yeah.
So, but she took me on. She ended up because Francis insisted.
She took on the challenge.
And she was awesome. She was great. She spent a lot of time with me, and I want to put this out there. I think that the greatest gift AA gives people is people give other people their time, which is precious, and you can't get it back,
Right.
and their experience. And they just want you to get sober. And they have that genuine desire to help you.
Yeah. Where else do you see that?
Nowhere.
Right. So
Nowhere.
and so, in thinking about that, you've gone on to sponsor many people. Right?
Well, I have, but not a ton. You know what? It's kind of weird, and I don't know what it is. I had some people that I sponsored for many years, and then I don't know. In recent years, I want to say in recent years, not as much. But I'm willing to help. But I think I scare people. To be honest with you, I do.
And something funny is sometimes that's what people need.
Well, tough love is hard. That's what I'm saying.
It's
tough
harder
love
than
is,
it used to be. It used to be more acceptable. But yeah, I mean, that does scare people because it's a hard way to go.
But tough love is real love. Okay.
And tough love is what a lot of people need. I mean,
It's the only thing that's going to help you.
you're up against the ego.
The ego.
So it's tough.
And your whole being. And you have to lose that. Like I had to really learn to kill that within myself. And it's taken me all this time.
Right.
to-
And there's
to
still a
get
little
there.
bit more to go.
There always is.
Yeah, I know that.
It's never going to end, Mark.
Well, Kay, it's been great having you on the show, and we really appreciate your time. Come back and see us again sometime.
Oh, really? You want
Yeah,
to
why not?
follow up?
Hell yeah. What is this, episode number what? What are we on, 10? So, yeah,
Sure.
episode 110 we'll have you back.
Okay,
How's
all
that?
right, good. Yeah, I might
so-
know something by then.
But
No.
until then, I'm Mark.
And I'm Brett.
And I'm Kate.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.